And we're back with more Echo.
Hey.
Alright.
Yell at your children.
Well, actually, fun fact, we're about to hit a rather important scene for Jenna's route.
I know, I'm super excited.
Oh, yeah.
I get to be on the record of most amount of swears in a day said.
The road turns back into chipped asphalt as we get closer to the old rail yard. The tracks to which run directly behind Leo and Duke's backyards. Not that they've seen any use in decades. Most of the houses down the road are newer, and the county even installed a streetlight after an old Badger lady got hit by a car 5 years ago. That being said, most of the residences stand vacant now, in various states of disrepair. As we round a bend, I spot Leo's house down the way. It's a little ranch-style house with a big backyard, right off a dirt road leading from the street. It used to be his family's home before they moved out. No cop cars parked out front or anything. Not that I really expected there to be. Jenna slows for a moment, peering over her shoulder.
That's such a weird way to see them.
Yeah.
By the way, this I believe was added in for the anniversary edition. I don't think this was in the
No,
original.
it was.
It was?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't remember it then. Her senses are better than mine, so I lessen my pace as well, trying to listen carefully. It's dead silent beyond the usual desert ambience. The rustle of breeze-swept trees, chirping crickets, and tweets from local night birds. I turn back to look at her. What? She frowns to herself.
Nothing.
Wait, did you hear something? She shakes her head, rubbing her wrist as she refocuses her attention back on me.
No. Just some unexpected nostalgia.
I smile some. Glad I'm not the only one. Oh? Okay, I'm gonna have to bleep that from you, Matt.
Okay, that's fine.
Head, you jerk.
That's well. I'm sorry. That's what it sounded like in my head.
I forget.
Hope not. What was that thing?
He has a lot.
Is the word the word's fluff, right?
For like when we like bleep things, we say
Yeah.
But really, Squeak,
Squeak.
you've been fine and chill this whole time, and now that we're voicing, you're chewing your belt.
Oh, what the fluff?
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Squeak.
Oh, what for?
I can't exactly place it. It's just a feeling. Almost sort of like what people call deja vu.
I nod sagely, pretending to understand. She watches for a moment, as if studying my features for something deeper. I watch her as well, the golden glow of the street light giving her fur a pale radiance, blurring her features into something warm and familiar. Her bushy tail sways, and I can see the light plumes of desert dust scatter away on the asphalt beneath. They dissipate into the air like smoke from a cigarette. When we were younger, we had many nights like this, walking to and from Leo's place. Most of the time we'd be chatting about video games we'd been playing or some manga that Jenna had gotten into. Looking back, I could tell she savored those times. The fleeting moments she had away from home, where she could express her passions without fear of judgment or ridicule. Well, occasionally there'd be ridicule. But of the good faith sort, I think. Whenever she criticized some dumb thing I said, or weird-ass phase I was going through, it never felt like she had thought lesser of me. She suffered from my late 2000s frosted tips, highlights scene phase, after all.
How does his species... Hold the phone. How does his species have a frosted tip hairstyle?
He's got a little hair, like, on his head.
Okay. I just want to see it. I want fan art of this thing.
You said that, now all I can imagine is an otter with a mullet.
I again, internet, do a good by me. Non-sexually, please.
All right, so all of the 3 people that watch our streams gone. Sorry.
I'll miss you 3.
Thank you
I
guys.
salute you.
But wait, Harry, Harry, you're gone too. Damn.
Yeah, I
It's so
am.
weird seeing them like this.
You know I am.
As another side note, when we're breaking, it's just like usually we see the kind of more cartoonish version of them, and now we're seeing a more like, I don't know, natural looking version of them, and it's very cool. But it's not like my mental image of Jenna.
Interesting.
You say that, Alan. I just wanted to point out something that I was talking to Sebastian before you got here about the fact that I was NSFW before you joined.
Wait, what did you say? Because you cut
What?
out.
You cut it a lot.
Wow.
All I heard
mean-
was NSFW.
Yeah, no, that's... I'm saying, you saying about the fact that I have to leave, I think that's funny because me and Sebastian were talking about the fact that I was looking at NSFW games before the stream.
Ha. Alright, so I don't even know if this conversation's gonna remain in the episode. We'll find out in editing. Yay!
Woo.
She was just trying to encourage me to be a better person. Those long walks and talks we had were like ways to gauge our own small-town-induced insanity. It was during those times I felt more secure in myself than I ever did elsewhere. It's also when we understood we truly didn't belong here. I can't help but wonder if that's what she's thinking of now. She smiles once, then picks up the pace again. I step up and match her speed.
I hope Duke still works late shifts. I recall him being quite nocturnal when we were growing up.
He works at the Blue Diamond Casino by the reservation, right?
Mm-hmm. As far as I can remember.
I used to think that only native people could get jobs there.
I know they try to keep it that way, but many of the locals in the res lack the skill sets and training for some of the jobs. Hence, the outsourcing. I think Duke works, or at least worked, as a security technician.
Huh. I guess I didn't know him that well.
Me neither, but he was friends with my father.
Sorry, I was just closing my door because my laundry machine's yelling at me and I wanted to muffle that some. I can see Duke's house now. A large manufactured home that raised up like 3 feet off the ground. That is the wrong button. I think Flynn told me once that they made him raise it up since it sat in the flood zone for the nearby wash. Said wash pretty much never had water in it, except for one particular monsoon season where a flash flood sent white water currents down it. It all drains out into Lake Emma. It's difficult to see in the dark, but the house looks to be in a bit of a sorry state. The yard is overgrown with tall weeds. There's a bunch of stripped bicycle parts and other electronic components strewn about. Jenna sees it too and lets out an audible hum, as if acknowledging some confirmed suspicion. I'm about to ask her what's up when she speaks again.
You know, my grandma never left the reservation, no matter how bad it got down there. I used to visit her a lot before she got sick.
Oh? There's something about the tone of her voice that makes me think I should stop walking. I turn and focus on her.
I don't think any of you guys ever met her. She was probably the most down-to-earth member of my family. Despite genuinely believing in a lot of the old spiritual aspects of the culture.
Like rain dances? Jenna gives me a look that makes me immediately regret speaking. my tail curling instinctively.
You're thinking of the Pascoa tribe?
I would
That's-
assume it's like Pascala.
The Pascawa tribe. They're the ones that did the dancing around the bonfire bit that gets attributed to every native culture for some reason.
Right, my bad. I give her a little thumbs up of understanding. I must look especially scorned because Jenna begins to snicker a little. She reaches over, pushing my thumb down and squeezing my fist. Her grasp was incredibly soft, and I feel myself longing for it again as she lets go.
Hey, you're a college-educated journalist now. You can't get away with the cute ignorance anymore.
I've got one more year of that, actually. I say with a faux defensive tone. I guess I should hold on to staying cute as long as I can.
Oh, that's easy, Chase. All you have to do is lose the goatee.
She says it like it is.
Look at that face, too.
What? Oh, come on. I reach up and grab the dyed piece of facial scruff, and a bubbling sense of self-consciousness burns at my cheeks. Jenna laughs some more.
I'm just kidding. I know Leo isn't a fan of it, though. He told me as much.
I let out a bit of a defeated noise. For some reason, that also kind of stings. Jenna waves dismissively, trying to get back to what she was saying. She seems serious about getting what she has to say off her chest.
Anyway, Grandma had all this ham radio equipment in her house. She started collecting it after Grandpa, which was long before I was born. She was really into technology and broadcasting, which admittedly was an oddball contrast from her more spiritual, tradition-based outlook on life.
She crosses her arms, taking a glance inside an old parked pickup truck that's missing its plates on the side of the road. I shine my phone's flashlight inside, but there's just a bunch of bags of what looks like farming stuff, mainly fertilizer.
I remember thinking it was neat.
Oh, I didn't hear you say neat.
Yeah, I realized it was pretty soft. She used to sit on her porch with her quilting gear and talk on the radio to passing truckers.
Wow, really? I start to picture an old native woman who looks like Jenna, knitting needles in one paw and a radio mic in the other.
Yeah, her radio had pretty good range. She did this for years. Got kind of a reputation because of it. Sweetheart of Echo Valley, or something along those lines.
Oh. She was like flirting with them? Jenna smirks, lightly shrugging her shoulders.
Well, I suppose there's probably some of that. I remember Adam mentioning that occasionally she would find flowers in her postbox. Sometimes even letters. Grandma was pretty shy, actually, and didn't like how she looked. When she was born, her ears and parts of her scalp were malformed. It was at some underfunded tribal clinic up north, so they weren't equipped to fix it. Didn't get the money for it later than in life either.
She wings up her paws to her own ears, rolling her fingers down them to the base of her head fur.
She always wanted to wear these big sun hats wherever she went somewhere. Like she didn't even feel right being seen. But over the radio, she would mainly just talk to these truck drivers, ask them about their day, about things that made them happy. And I remember hearing about this one particular time where she talked with a truck driver who had recently lost his wife in an accident. Naturally, he was very upset and was considering whether life was worth living anymore. So, Grandma told him to pull over and come visit her. He was reluctant at first, but he did. Grandma got together all the other old neighbor ladies and pulled out this big, ancient grill from the 60s. They baked a bunch fry bread and cooked up a ton of tacos. She even went out and personally got the ingredients to make some homemade cookies, since he mentioned he liked those over the radio. When he got there, she taught him how to make all the food himself. She was worried without a wife he wouldn't know how to cook something decent on his own. She also went around and introduced him to everyone, treated him like a guest of honor. He was this little rat guy, really meek. At first he was worried he was being awkward and was out of place, but they talked for hours and hours, way into the night. His wife and him had been together for 18 years, and she was an art teacher at an elementary school in Two Canyons. So before he left, she and him made a sand painting.
A sand painting? I'm reluctant to interrupt, but I've never heard of that before.
It's a painting in sand, usually done with pigments. What's interesting is they're not really art objects. They're for helping people heal, to become better. Once painted, the person who needs the healing would sit in the center of the painting. The energy and goodwill that was put into the painting was to help the person in need, healing spirits and that sort of thing. I know, nowadays you mainly see them framed up on roadside craft sales, but that's what they were originally for. So,
Jenna trails off, and I look away as she clears her throat. She takes a slow breath, and it takes her just a second to continue.
my parents weren't there at Grandma's funeral. It was at some public meeting building out in Peyton for some reason. For my family, it was just Adam and I.
Adam? Really?
Yes, this was a long while ago, before he started changing. We were nearly a third of the way through the service when the rat guy shows up, and I have to ask Adam who he is. The only people up to that point were us foxes. After that, I started noticing more non-foxes coming in. Some were literally wearing those stereotypical trucker hats with those holy bits in the back. And of course, half the people there were really confused who these guys were. Like, maybe they were at the wrong funeral? They just sat in the back, and then Adam went up to speak.
She folds her arms tighter across her chest, smiling to herself as her gaze flicks upward.
Adam stuttered his way through his speech, but at the end of it, he started inviting up the new arrivals from the back. A lot of them are fairly gruff-looking guys, you know? And one by one, they get up and start reading letters.
She pauses again.
Letters thanking her for being so kind, for giving them someone to talk to about their problems, or just being so witty and fun to speak to. The rat guy, God, I wish I remembered his name, went up last, and his letter addressed Grandma like she was still there with us. He talked about how he was doing, how tough things were after what happened. He mentioned his wife by name, about how losing someone so good and special can can make it feel like the world had become so much darker. But how it's always important to remember that there are still good people out there, even if they're just someone who can lend an ear for a while. And it felt like he was actually talking to us about Grandma. I thought about that a lot when, Adam passed. About how maybe it wasn't just a chemical imbalance, and perhaps he just needed someone to talk to.
She keeps her arms still tight over her torso, though it looks more like a self-embracing measure. A far cry from her usual standoffish posturing.
I also thought about how you're so goddamn alone out here.
She gestures with both arms to her surroundings. I peer down at myself, then back to Jenna. She lets out a low noise that sounds like a quick sigh before shaking her head.
Not you specifically, but rather anyone stuck in the... What is it with Echo and taking away all that's good?
She's looking at me now, but I might as well be a brick wall for how equipped I am to answer that question. It almost feels rhetorical in nature, something with so many reasons that you could apply, that it becomes simply too much to try to put into words. I sheepishly hold an arm. Would it be too patronizing, too much of a stereotypical guy thing to reach out to her now? It's more vulnerability from someone who's cultivated a life of being invulnerable. I suppose we've all got heavy shit under the surface, Jenna probably most of all. And while some of us sort of downplay it with jokes, self-deprecation, or lashing out at others, Jenna's always kept it under said surface. Seeing all this brought to light feels like something raw, uncomfortable, something understood to be immovable being moved. I look past Jenna to the wash, like the desert flooding. I exhale, looking back down to her. I can feel my mind going blank like it did earlier. Her expression is discernible, but she's still looking at me. Alright, and I'm gonna go ahead and make a save right here because I'm gonna let you know this question that we have to answer actually affects what ending we get and has a deep impact on how Jenna behaves for the rest of the route.
Oh boy.
So, I mean, I think for me, the answer I would 100% say is the middle one.
Same
Kept each
here.
other
Like, I
sane.
think that's the only... So, I don't know how to answer that. It's somewhat sincere in the sense that, like, he doesn't. But this town breaks people is just, that's just, like... It's agreeing with her, but, like, in the worst way, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, she came from this town, and her grandma's from this town, and he's from this town. So yeah, this town has been really bad to them, but they found each other in it. So I don't know. Option 2 to me seems just the most correct thing to say, and it's certainly what I would say.
I feel
mean,
like the,
yeah.
my opinion personally, I feel like the bottom. I do have to agree with DJ on one thing is that I feel like the bottom one is probably like the worst answer to the three, while the one in the middle isn't perfect. It doesn't sound like you're being like. It doesn't sound like an insult. It more sounds like a acknowledgement, like, hey, we eventually found each other to help each other out through all the times. While the top one seems just like very neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
May I go first, I guess?
I was
Go
gonna
for
say, I believe when I played this, I chose the one that felt most honest to what I would say in this situation, which ended up being, I don't know how to answer that.
Personally, I mean, going through, I guess, like some conversations and stuff, and not really knowing what to say. I personally have answered. I don't know how to answer that, or if I never played this game, so I feel that the top answer is like it may be I feel like if I were in this situation, Jenna might interpret it as I wasn't listening in a way. It didn't. I don't feel like I would put enough care into my response, so I think I'd go with the one in the middle. And the one on the bottom definitely seems like, yeah, it's more of yeah, it's true, but it's like the most negative response. And the one in the middle is just like, hey, I see you, and and I agree with you, and I just, I see you.
My reasoning for why I chose I don't know how to answer that was because, I mean, obviously the one that says this town breaks people, like, to me, I'm the kind of person that I believe you make your life, right? So, like, even if you're in a difficult situation, you can get yourself out of it, with enough, granted, it ain't gonna be great, but you can do something about it. And I don't like the concept of myself saying that because of how I grew up, that I'm in this situation and everything is not... I don't like to delegate the blame away from myself, if that makes sense. But not in a bad kind of way. I kind of view it like, yeah, why I'm where I'm at right now is my fault, but it also means that if I get better, then it's also because of my doing. However, I also felt like saying we kept each other sane is just trying to cheer her up and kind of a disingenuous answer. Because you're saying something to make her feel better. You're not saying something to properly, like, express the situation at hand. Which is why I felt like, yeah, no, I don't know how to answer that. There isn't an easy answer to this. That's just my opinion.
I wish there was an answer that like your answer could be, because this is what I would do because I have high EQ, because I'm a first grade teacher and I have to have high EQ. But like I would be like, I'm not saying I understand your situation. Wow, it's really great that you opened up to me. I know you kept me sane in this town, and I hope I did and I hope I can continue that for you, right? Like, this town has really sucked for me too. And I'm not saying that I am in your position. I'm just saying that what you've done, despite all that opening up you just did for me, and despite like how hard it was for you, you've always been there for me. And that's kind of what I feel like the second answer is. It's like this, like, it's not saying it's not saying your feelings are invalid. It's simply saying, thank you for keeping me sane, and I hope I did the same for you, is a way I wish it would word instead. But usually when you click it, that's kind of what you say. Oh, I'm so sorry, I just sniffled. But...
And for that, you shall be punished! No, I'm kidding.
Oh no!
I looked away for like a split second and didn't hear what she just said. What did she just say?
That was not a split second for you, Seb. I'll let you know. She went through a long conversation.
Yeah.
So, summary, and people can add if they feel I'm missing an important detail here. Beautiful story about her grandmother.
I heard about the stuff about the grandmother. I don't know what specifically she just said to prompt this.
Life needs people.
She said this exactly. She said, where is it? Yeah. I also thought about how you're so goddamn alone out here after her brother's funeral. Because she had her grandma's funeral, and then she had her brother who had committed suicide.
Yeah.
And she goes, no, not you specifically, because Chase didn't quite pick it up, but anyone stuck in this place. And then her question exactly was, what is it with Echo and taking away all that's good? Because remember, she said that her grandma was one of the few good people. She's dead now. her brother had been good but started to turn bad, and then he killed himself. She eventually ran away from home. She even had her little brother Jeremy, who she worries about, but she's kind of accepted that he's probably going to end up being a shitty person, and there's nothing she can do about that. She's asking, why is everything here always turning out terribly?
And see, that's where I'm like, that watching that lead in even makes me think even more. Just there's a lot that's wrong about this town, but like there's.
But we were at least there for each other.
I think that with looking at the options, what I kind of look at is like emotionally, what do they need right now? Because you can answer honestly in some case, you can answer some case and just kind of like yeah, it's fucking bad, or I don't know what to say, because it truly that is a way you can respond to it. But as a friend and having as a friend, like, you know, in the perspective of the character as a friend, and having somebody open up to it, and even mentally you reading the text, knowing that all of your other friends have at least outwardly mentioned your secrets or something hidden, using like jokes or whatnot, and having Jenna open up in this way, just being like out of like something that you wouldn't expect. I think I still would keep the middle option, and like kind of rereading that earlier, it just makes me want to just like, hey, I don't think I can answer you in either very neutral or the very negative in agreeing with you. I think you just need something more like that I could agree with you, just and help you in that, care for you emotionally.
Because he's not saying, I like, the option isn't, I like Echo.
Yeah. And
yeah, none of these are
Chase
that.
doesn't.
Chase hates Echo. Chase can't stand Echo. But Jenna and Chase met because of Echo. And that's kind of what he's saying. He's like, hey.
I don't like any of these answers. I wouldn't choose to respond especially the bottom two. If I feel most close to, I don't know how to answer that, mostly because my answer is going to be like a lot of sentences that don't link together quite right, and I hope that the person I'm speaking to would get what I'm trying to say.
I understand. I'm just going to point out something else once more about this, since Harry stepped away for a little bit. And that is, you also have to remember that just canonically, Chase and Jenna have been the longest pair of friends of the entire friend group. They've known each other the longest since, I want to say, like, Jenna was 7 and Chase was like 6 or something. They have spent the most time together throughout, like, their shared history. And so the fact that Chase brings up this is the first time that she's really finally broke down and actually admitted that there are things wrong, and that she kind of needs to, that she's got deeper issues that she's trying to start to actually like reach out for. That's why this scene's so pivotal, because Jenna usually kept things to herself. She knew her friends theoretically could help her, but she grew up in a household that taught her she shouldn't trust anyone else. Her parents weren't people she could trust. She couldn't trust her own brother. Her older brother eventually betrayed her. The few good people in her life died. That's the thing, that she really has a hard time trusting others. And while she does like her friends, I wouldn't say she trusted them to address her baggage. Because think about in Runaway, where she has an opportunity to talk with Chase about her problems that she's going through. He even asks her about it, but she tells him that it's none of his business. Finally, though, all these years later, she's starting to be more willing to talk about it, and talk about the fact that she needed help, and that she might still need a little help.
I think Chase should answer with "we kept each other sane." I also read that one wrong, which slightly changes the meaning of, instead of kept, I read it as keep.
Yeah, because that would be, oh, well, we're all actively on the edge versus there were times where we had dark moments, but we stopped ourselves and we helped each other out during those dark times. Not saying that now is one of those dark times.
Mm-hmm.
So I
So
would like
I
to
vote
hear a
2.
vote. Okay, so I'm hearing. I think
Middle.
everyone has voted for 2 for the most part.
Hannah?
2.
Alright, I have an official vote from DJ and Hannah, Fane, Seb, and Matt.
Middle, 2.
Okay. Sebastian and Matt.
I'd be fine with either answer 1 or 2.
Okay.
Both are valid.
Alright then, Sebastian.
I personally agree with. I don't know how to answer that a little bit more.
Okay, so then you'll vote for 1. So that's 1.5 votes for 1, 3.5 votes for 2. So we will go with we kept each other sane. Now, once I click this, would you guys like me to reveal what happens with these choices?
I would.
I would.
No one
Yeah.
wants to be
Yeah.
spoiler free.
Yeah, that's fine. Wait, so just curious as to how the videos work. Or do you eventually do the other ones, or do you?
So that depends on which route we're on. The best comparison that we have for this would be Carl's route. And what we did in Carl's route is we did actually the bad route first, and then we backtracked to do the good route.
Okay.
But the thing is, that took a long time.
Yeah.
And it kind of
Right.
killed the good route story because
Mhm.
the good route, like you were following a narrative where you're supposed to be happy at the end. You're like, oh, okay. But you already known half of the, like, story points. So instead of,
Okay.
like, vibing with the story, you were like, oh, okay, that's what happened, right?
Right. Okay. Makes
and,
sense. I
and
mean,
versus with the bad ending, it was
You were going through
You-
it very
you-
long.
yeah. You knew that it was be good at the end, and it
It
kind of
ruins.
dragged on for a while.
yeah.
Because the other thing that I'll point out is we are on Thursday, and we know this route goes on until Saturday. And this kind
Wow,
of happened
okay.
in Carl's route as well, where in Carl's route, the pivotal choice is made on a Saturday, and the route went on until Sunday.
Oh wow. So it
So-
just like that's like where it ended, like right soon after you made the decision, I guess.
No, it was a long time. It was like about 3 or 4 hours,
The
honestly.
the content was long.
Yeah.
Oh,
There was a
right.
Saturday lasted a long time, and so did Sunday in Carl's route. I would say we're probably about 5 or 6 hours away from the end of Jenna's route from here, if I'm being honest.
Mhm.
But that's if we stay focused, which we're probably not going to. So I'm gonna tack that up to maybe like 8 from
10
here.
hours.
12 hours later.
Well,
5
the,
years later.
To also give a comparison though for you, Fane, for TJ and Flynn's routes, there are no branches, so we just went through it. But sometimes we backtracked for certain small moments that were interesting if you looked at it from the other side of things.
Okay.
And then for Leo's route's actually fascinating because there's a lot of dead ends where like, yes, you just die from making this choice.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so
Oh,
we
what
just
the
did those.
fuck? Wait for
Yeah,
for
so
what
in Leo's route, it'll be like, you didn't grab the pistol, you died. Or like, you said
Goodness.
hello, you died. Or like, you didn't say hello, you died. Very choose your own adventure book.
My favorite
I like
is
the
you did not
ones-
learn the theme of this route. You died.
You died. I like the one specific tiny moment in Flynn's route where the first time we played it, you were like, "There's something fucky that goes on right about now," and it didn't happen. And then we went back and did the other option. You're like, "That's the fucky thing," and I'm like, "Oh, that was fucking weird."
And
He's just
Okay.
sums up. He's like, "Hey." So
I'm leaning even more into 2, and I might be mad if they don't pick this, but whatever.
No, we're
Because
picking 2.
in all the other, if the developers don't think that this is
Ah.
the right answer, but in all the other routes, like in Carl's route, hold ears, no spoilers.
Well, okay. The person who we want to avoid spoiling the story is Fane. So Fane, would you like to just hop off for a little
Like,
bit while DJ
3
just
seconds.
blurts
That's
out
all I need.
spoilers?
To be honest, I'm perfectly fine with it.
Okay. So in Carl's route, essentially you could be like, what's the easy thing versus what's the thing that helps Carl? What's the thing that helps Carl grow? Right. So it's like,
Right.
oh wow, we are doing better with you being possessed. Yeah, go press that possession button. Whereas the good thing was being like, I don't care, I want my friend. And
Girl,
on
you
that,
don't need no ghost possessing you. You're beautiful as is, Carl.
basically. And
Well, we're
in a
not afraid of
similar
no
way, I
ghosts.
feel like the first answer is the one that, like, honestly, I would maybe even say in this situation. I agree with you guys. It's like, but the second option is that it's what Jenna needs to, like, grow with, right? Jenna's problem is Leo's problem is he doesn't hate Echo when he kind of should. Like, he's so much living in the past that he doesn't
doesn't
have
recognize.
a future.
Well, he doesn't recognize the problems and/or doesn't recognize.
Her problem is that she lives so much in the future that she doesn't see that. Yes, like the past hurt her, and she has a right and is valid to that hurt past. But on the flip side,
There are lots of good things. There
Her
are still
gra-
good things.
and that's exactly like her grandma died. But look at the beauty of what happened at that funeral, right? Like,
Yeah.
this random funeral, a bunch of people came out and said, this person meant something to us that we only heard on ham radio, right? And in a similar way, I think Chase needs to be like, honey, we're friends, right? Like, your past has been horrible, and I want to be here for you now that you've opened up to me as I've been for you, as I was there for you then.
Yeah. I
So-
think it's like
Go for it.
well, I mean, I already mentioned earlier with my reason why I picked it. It's just like, this is what Jenna needs right now. Like, it's a response that kind of like shows, like, rather just tells her like, hey, this is important to me that, like, you're opening up, and we've kept each other sane. Like, this is important. You mean a lot. You mean a lot to me. I care for you. And like, just I don't know. This music isn't helping me a lot.
It's so like,
Trust me, you'll hear this song quite a bit throughout Echo. This is, if I remember right, this is the theme for A Lonely Wolf.
Huh. I don't know. I've never played games like this. To be honest. Damn. Slight tears, bro.
Oh yeah, no, I heavily recommend trying to check out like some of the other routes, because I actually recommend playing Echo, and I've talked about this with Harry, and we both basically agree on my interpretation on this. If you are going to try Echo out, if you are convinced already before you're going in that you're going to play all 5 routes anyway, start with Carl's route just to get it out of the way. Otherwise, start with Leo's route. That's the one that's going to basically show you whether or not you really want to keep playing this game. Because Leo's route's where it gets really good. And it's the one that will hook you and make you go, well, wait, why'd this happen? Why'd this happen? And it brings a lot of questions that the other routes will answer.
Right.
I have a joke, but it's spoiler, so I won't.
I mean, okay.
Just
I get scared easily, so I'm just like, I've heard it is horror genre, so.
So I will say, for when it comes to horror things within the game,
It hits you with atmosphere more than actual horror.
Yeah, the thing
Well,
is,
that's what I mean. It's more like a fuck.
yeah, no,
This is
gonna be
the
a lot
game that's
more-
gonna make you look at dark corners a little weird for a minute, but that's about it.
The other thing is,
Yeah.
it's the other thing that I love about Echo personally is, in a way, it's an anti-romance simulator, where it brings up the problems of certain types of relationship dynamics, as in every route, the person that you're trying to romance, it usually doesn't work out.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just saying. But no, like, that's not even a spoiler. Like, once you play through 3 of the routes, you start to realize, oh, no, if I'm romancing this person, it won't work out. Like, think about that. Like, each route that we've gone through, do they end up together? The answer is no. And it's usually because they don't communicate. They don't rely on each other. There's some form of distrust, or there's some type of personal baggage that had been there before.
Or Chase is a rock.
Well, the thing is, Chase isn't always a rock. As much as they claim that Chase has the personality of a rock, one of the things that I'd like to point out is that Chase is actually more like Play-Doh. He changes depending on who he spent the most time with in his past. And that's what Route 65 determined. Because in every one of the different routes, Chase could have spent a lot of time with one person, and that person affected his personality a lot. In Carl's route, Chase does a lot more swear words, things like that. Here in Jenna's route, he knows about manga and anime. While I remember in Carl's route, he mentioned he never watched an anime.
Wow.
That is mutually exclusive. Like, they cannot both be true. So that means we're playing different chases in the different routes.
That's really interesting. So, I mean, one, I don't really know if I'm gonna play the game. It's more of like, I'd like something similar to this, but it's just that what you kind of told me earlier about like the atmosphere of like, you know, the horror aspect is just something that I am very particular about when it comes to games. Rather like when I remember joining in the first time of when y'all were doing Echo here anyways, I'm like, what the fuck is this scene? I'm so what?
Which route was that? Was it here for Jenna?
That was this route during the nightmare.
Oh yeah, I think that was.
I was like, that was last time actually. I'm like, I'm gonna go continue DMing somebody else while I'm here. So.
It's like, I don't want to be caught up in this nightmare. Bye!
It's not my nightmare. I have an ability to leave. Okay, bye.
That's the thing, though, with Echo here, is it's very much a coming-of-age story. It's also a story that reflects on the death of small-town America and how, basically, there is a lot of darkness in the world, but it's basically one of those things of, it's up to you to kind of find, like, the little bit of hope in each route.
Right.
Because a lot of terrible things have happened, but you are still rooting for the good people to make it out.
Right. It's like, so I guess what you're telling me is kind of like a microcosm of like just life in general, in a way, with rather a lot of difficulties and just kind of like the horrors.
I will say though that it's a bit more focused on the negative sides of life, and it's unbalanced towards focusing on that. But that's because that's literally what the story is more focused on in general, and there's a reason for this. So I would not say that Echo is an accurate representation of life.
Well, of course, but like, you know, like concerning I mean, person with like, I guess some people's like views of life and just being like, oh, happy-go-lucky, this is life, and like, you know, okay, but like. I mean, I enjoy the idea of it, kind of like showing like hardships and kind of like the challenges, how you face these challenges and how you can interact with people as a result. I wish it was easy as trying to find these three things when you don't know what the fuck to say, and but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Makes you think.
If you ever want though, you can always, like I said, Fane, you can always go back through like our old playthrough and everything and watch them piece by piece. And if you hit a point where you're like, nope, I'm out, you can just hit the nope button.
I think that's what I may do, because one, I don't think I'd be spending money to get the game.
It's free.
Oh, okay, good to know. But I'll watch the video so I have control over what sequences I watch or don't. But yeah, thank you very much.
Oh yeah, no, there's a reason why I always keep singing Echo's praises. It's a free game. They earn their money through their Patreon for people supporting them, and that's it. And yeah, they make quality products for like all their different games that they release for free eventually. The biggest benefit that you get as a patron is you just get it a month early typically. At one point they also got like the short stories for free, but they've been adding in the short stories now more recently, so.
Right,
Anyway.
okay.
So, now I'd like to ask you guys, would you like to know what the 3 choices did?
Yeah.
Sure.
No one's gonna be like, spoiler warning, I don't want to hear that.
I don't
I'm
mind
fine.
knowing
Spoil me.
that we're on the good
Alright.
route.
So, I'm going to start with, we kept each other sane. This actually leads to the best outcome.
That's what I figured. So you need to give us the
Thank
outcome.
you.
We're gonna ride that ride.
Yes. We will check out some of the others for certain scenes, but this is the one we're going to be riding for most of this anyway.
I'm so glad we chose the right answer because I was about to ready. I was literally ready to throw something if we didn't.
Like, I'm about to riot.
So, what I will say here is there's a couple things. This leads to the good ending, but there's one particular scene that's coming up with Heather. Heather's going to have a very interesting scene with Jenna, and when the two of them interact, this is the best outcome when it comes to Jenna and Heather interacting. If we say, I don't know how to answer that, it can also lead to a good ending. However, Jenna is not as dead set on aiming for a good outcome. She is still doing good things, but it's going to be more of an issue overall.
Mm-hmm.
But you still are on line for the good ending. This town breaks people is the bad ending. And there
That
are
makes
multiple scenes that are going to be different.
Oh boy.
And
That makes sense.
I'm not going to lie, what we'll be doing is when we get to those scenes, I will be pausing after those scenes and going back to the bad ending file. So we can see what would have happened if we did the bad ending instead. So that way, Harry, I think you'll agree with me, when we get to the final area with all the big reveal stuff, that will be the final stuff for the good route, and we'll end on that. But before we get to that, we'll finish up with the bad ending from one house.
I love it. I think that's very
Fair.
cool.
It's fair.
I'm trying to be vague so only Harry can understand what I'm saying.
Fair is fair.
So yes, we'll see those two endings. We'll also see how the I don't know how to answer that worked out for the Heather scene. But I'm going to have a start here with we kept each other sane. This will be how
I'm
we'll
so
be encountering things for the first time.
I'm also pleased the kind of like philosophical, hour-long philosophical conversation that's.
Yeah.
I was really fortunate growing up. I had a boyfriend I loved, a group of friends who supported me, and a family who gave a shit. And I'm not like the world's most mentally healthy person, you know? I see a completely alternate timeline where I'm like the rest of those guys in Tetanus Alley, or worse. I rubbed the back of my neck sheepishly. I'm not good at making these reassuring speeches, but this is all stuff I've admittedly thought about before. That rat guy was right. Having someone around who gives a damn means the world. And isolating yourself from said world isn't how you make yourself better. It's the opposite. And for keeping me sane, I do think I kind of have you to thank for that, in some part. My voice cracks, and I try to cover it up with a cough. Smooth.
Thank you, Chase.
Jenna smiles lightly.
That's actually rather beautiful. Has this been on your mind for a while?
I shrug. Lately, at least.
Well, I'd like to think that his and your sentiments are true. If we have time, I might stop by to see Jeremy.
When I talked to him, he sounded like he wouldn't mind seeing you again. Jenna chuckles briefly.
It's strange, isn't it? The notion of you talking to him now, as adults. As kids, we were also at odds over truly stupid things. I suppose I'm curious whether he's grown up well.
I guess we'll see. Jenna raises a brow. Maybe, I mean. All this being said, I'm truly not excited to go back and talk to him or his friends. For Jenna's sake, I can grin and bear it though. I guess I have to ask, what made you think of this? I mean, the story about your grandmother. Was it just talking about tech stuff in the reservation? Jenna ponders this question for a moment, looking a bit more like her usual self. However, there's still a slight unnerved tinge to her, like her tail has an extra bit of bristle to it.
I suppose that's what got me talking about her. Though, I started thinking about this all earlier.
Oh? Up ahead, the screen door to the side of Duke's house flings open. A familiar ash-colored figure peers out, attention focused on us. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and save here. Alright. And I'd like to know from you guys, would you like to see how the other two things would have played out immediately, or would you like to save them for when we come back after for a little bit?
We can come back after, I think.
Yeah.
We can come back.
Okay then. Well
I
then,
know that.
say goodbye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.